I'm Samantha Rank with the Daily Caller, and joining me today is Amanda Makki, who is running for the Republican nomination in Florida's 13th congressional district. Amanda, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Amanda, you have a pretty interesting story that makes you a very unique candidate to run against Democrat incumbent Charlie Crist. You were born in Iran. You immigrated to the United States in 1979, just months after the Iranian Revolution started, and now you are running for Congress. How does your background and accomplishments since you came to the United States make you a strong candidate for this position?
Thank you so much, Samantha. Yeah, my story is different. I was born in Iran. I came here as an infant. We legally immigrated to the United States, as you mentioned, after the revolution happened, just months after. And my parents were 26 years old. I always like to say they didn't have two nickels to rub together. They were just glad to get out for for their freedom. And, I always say it's, something like this, wearing something like this could get you killed and beheaded in a country like that. And it was just it was a miracle that they were able to get here swiftly. And my parents they worked hard. My mother delivered yellow pages, and she put my father through school. He ultimately became a surgeon. He's a surgeon to this day. I always say, the only thing that distinguishes you in America is really hard work. It's not your pedigree, it's not your last name. It's your drive to work hard. And they worked hard to provide us, me and my brother, with a good education, and I followed through on that. I went to law school, but before I went to law school, I worked on the Bush campaign, and I was at the Pentagon just weeks after 9/11. From there, I worked on Capitol Hill, and ultimately, I was a partner in one of the largest law firms in the world before I was 40. And I say that because it just shows the hard work that I put in throughout my life is the hard work that I will put into this job of being a public servant. And it is hard work to be a public servant. It's certainly, it's something that you give your life to. I think it's having the heart of a public servant is really who can do this job. And we've done a really good job of fundraising and door knocking and all the things that you need to do to be a qualified candidate in this race and to take on someone like Charlie Crist. But really, my background, the hard work ethic, I think is important for people to know because I'm going to work hard for them. I'm going to work hard for the people of the Florida's 13th district and serve them best in my capacity as a representative and helping them and certainly promoting an agenda that I think the people of this district want, and that's not what Charlie Crist represents.
If I were a voter in Florida's 13th congressional district, what are some of your policy goals and initiatives that I should be aware of?
Sure. So look, the economy right now, I mean, we flattened the economy like a pancake, and we did that because of what happened with coronavirus. Obviously, that in and of itself has created almost a quarter of the workforce now is on unemployment. And so that's a really important topic in a district like ours where you have almost 50% of the workforce works for a small business. We are a tourism-based district. Let me tell you a little bit about the district. We're just outside of Tampa. Lots of veterans. We're just outside of MacDill Air Force Base, where you have SOCOM and CENTCOM. And we have a large senior population, but we also have a large service industry population because of tourism. We have the number one beach in America, Clearwater Beach, in my district. And, I think all those things tell you a little bit about the district. We don't have large corporations. We certainly have, a few, but by and large, the workers here work for small businesses. And so it certainly is something that I think is very important to focus on what we do to get our economy back again. That's the first thing. The second thing is healthcare. Healthcare out-of-pocket costs have gone up substantially under Obamacare. And if we're going to do anything, we're going to make sure that we address the costs because the out-of-pocket costs are what is making it very hard for small businesses and even families that have to provide for themselves. You see and you hear, especially from hairstylists here, I hear it the most that I have to pay 3 to 4 times more. It's not unheard of for a family of four to pay between $20,000 and $25,000 before a dime is paid by the insurance company. So those are premiums, those are your out-of-pocket deductibles. Some people have very high deductibles. So all those things have made it exorbitantly expensive to have health insurance. And so some people go without. And we got to make sure that we have access to healthcare that people can afford. So healthcare, and I think that's also a small business issue because that's what small businesses you hear about a lot. I also think liability issues for small businesses right now. Coming out of COVID, people are worried they don't want to get sued for something happening to them. And so I think those liability protections are also important. But one thing that I always talked about before COVID was transportation issues. We have 1,000 people a day moving to Florida. The majority are moving between, basically the Tampa Bay area. I always say from Citrus County down to Manatee County. And, those people are driving on our roads. And every year, it feels like since I've been living here, every year it just gets worse and worse. And that becomes a quality of life issue. And also, if we're a top tourism destination, we want to make sure that people who come here aren't sitting in traffic. That may be the difference between them going somewhere else to vacation. And so I think transportation is an extremely important issue. President Trump has talked about infrastructure, but the Democrats haven't come along to work with him on that. And I think that's something that's very important. But one of the signature things I think, obviously in this district, we have a lot of veterans. We want to make sure that the veterans who served us, we continue to serve them. And another thing that I hear a lot about is, people are tired of career politicians. And I think term limits are an excellent thing. I signed a term limit pledge, and I believe limits. I think they just provide good government. You have people go there to do a job, and then pass the baton on to the next generation of leaders.
You talked a lot about veterans in your community. Your campaign recently launched a Veterans for Makki campaign. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So on Memorial Day, we launched our Makki Veterans for Makki campaign, and Matt Tito is leading that effort. He is a combat veteran. He served 2 tours in Mosul, and he has a great background. And he's already met with a lot of veterans who have issues and concerns that they raise with him. And I just want veterans to know how important it is that their issues be elevated. When I worked in Congress, I worked on Medicare issues and veteran issues, and you want to make sure that they aren't lost in the shuffle. You hear a lot of stories about care at the VA, and I want to hear those stories. I want to know what's happening, and I want to be able to help. We had a tireless leader in this community for over 4 decades, Congressman Bill Young, and actually our VA center here is named after him. And it was really a testament to where his heart was, and he wanted to make sure that he helped the veterans. And I think him and his staff did such an incredible job. We got to return to that. We got to return to making sure that veterans don't feel neglected, that their issues are addressed. And I wanted to make sure that I had a person. My first, person to lead one of my coalitions is a veteran, because veterans issues are so important here. As I said, 1 out of every 10 residents of Pinellas County is a veteran. And just door knocking. I've been door knocking. Me and my team, we've noticed that how many are veterans, because you see things in their driveways and on their cars and on display. So, we're very proud of that, and we want to make sure that we honor that commitment that we've made to them.
In response to what's been happening over the last week since George Floyd was killed by a police officer, what's your response, and what do you think we can do as a country moving forward to make sure that this never happens again and we can unite around this issue?
Well, certainly my heart goes out to the Floyd family for everything that they've endured with this. It's a very sad situation to just see that image on TV, but I certainly am just very saddened by the state of what's happening in our country right now. And it's not even just in the United States. From my understanding, it's happening. These riots are happening in England as well. And I think it's just heartbreaking. And, seeing all the things that are happening in our communities, I just think back to one video that I saw of an elderly African American woman who was weeping, and she was just saying, these are my stores that I go to, and I just watched them burn down my stores, and I just wanted to be able to go to my grocery store and go to my, Dollar General store and go to these stores, and I can't anymore. And because of COVID, the buses aren't running. So I can't even go anywhere. Why are they doing this? And it really, I mean, you just feel for her because you feel and understand what she's going through. It's very tragic to see this. And my thoughts, my hopes, my prayers are that this will end soon. No one should want to incite violence, and it has become more than just violence. It's going after our national treasures, burning them down, and that's something that's just very heartbreaking for every American to see.
Thank you so much for joining me today. If viewers want to continue watching your journey, the primary is being held on August 18th. Where can they find that information?
Sure. So my website is Amanda Makki, that's Makki.com. And you can go on there and you can see we have the endorsement of Leader Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise, Elise Stefanik, and over 24 other members of Congress, local members, local endorsements like the Associated Builders and Contractors. And we've done a really good job of really raising this race to be a national race, raising this race to have the focus of the Republican Party. And that's why I'm one of the contenders on the NRCC Young Guns program. And that just shows you that they are taking this race very seriously. So anything you can do to help to your viewers, obviously contributions matter. They're very helpful to keeping our cause going and really taking the fight to Charlie in November. Again, that's amandamackie.com, and you can learn more about me there. Of course, Facebook and Twitter are always active as well.